Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of MindFit Podcast. My name is Robert Aceves, and I'm here with Neil Babins. How you doing, Neil?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing really well, considering how things are in this country right now, which is a little worrying sometimes. I was talking to my cousin this morning, by the way, and we're talking about all the things that have happened this year, and it's been pretty crazy so far in 2020. And so I was just mentioning that I just cannot imagine things getting any worse this year,
Yeah. Yeah, I a lot of people want to give this year away and trade it in for a new one. So
Right?
that's been happening a lot lately. And yesterday I was talking to clients online, and lo and behold, on top of everything else, there's an earthquake, a 7.5. Well, not I wasn't at the epicenter, but there was a 7.5. I think it was out of Mojave Desert. And I was my place was shaking, and I was like, "Whoa! I think we have to stop for a moment. What else can happen here?" It was like on top of everything else, and
Right?
yeah, it was just. And when we're having bandwidth issues, the connection wasn't all that great, and I'm like, "Okay." Someone said to me, "When are the locusts coming?" I said, I don't. That's a good question. Let's check outside. Maybe they're in the streets. I don't know. So
Right.
it's yeah. It's just
Yeah.
we thought this was bad a few weeks ago, and it was, and it is. But so it's
Yeah.
tremendous amount of stress and uncertainty going on. So
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
why today we decided to talk about uncertainty because it almost feels that way, right? That we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what could happen with the stock market. I mean, things seem to be doing well sometimes, and then who knows if there's going to be another crash. The real estate market, seems to be holding off a little bit. Some houses seem to be going down. Some people think it's going to go down at some point. Who knows? There's also, all the uncertainty with a lot of the things happening in this country right now, and decisions that need to be made, and it's just one thing after another. And this whole virus thing is also taking a toll on a lot of businesses and a lot of people, and it's also benefiting a lot of other businesses. And so it's just this up and down constantly. So hopefully today we're gonna do some talk, some tips about how to deal with this uncertainty in the world. So,
yeah. That's the thing about certainty is that it's a question of survival for most of us. I mean, the psychology of it goes way back, and it says things that along the lines that when we're not certain about something, we can't form a strategy for survival. So we would rather choose something, hang on to something with certainty. So if you notice, a lot of people are very polarized about the way they felt about the virus, about the dangers of the virus, the way they feel about what's going on, politically in the country. So they go from one end to the other because certainty gives you a sense of security, gives you a sense of survival, puts you in survival mode. Uncertainty equals danger. And there's already danger out there. So if we feel uncertain, we feel more susceptible to fall into that danger. And people would rather be certain about something that doesn't serve them well or doesn't do well for them in life than they would be uncertain about something that has actual risks involved. In other words, I see this in relationships all the time. People will hang on to a person, for example, who's emotionally unavailable because they know they're going to be disappointed, at least a part of them does, but they keep trying to make it work because the certainty of not getting what you want is safer to the brain than the uncertainty of going into a relationship where real vulnerability is at stake. So people will do this in relationships, and they will also do this with social media and with social platforms and political platforms. They'll try to be certain about one thing or the other, even if that something doesn't feel very good. So it's and that just of course leads us into that spiral. Coronavirus is here, and we tend to if your brain doesn't know what's around the corner, it can't keep you out of harm's way. And I'm actually reading from an article on Psychology Today. I'll give you the name of it. And it always assumes the worst, over-personalizes threats, and jumps to conclusions. Your brain will do almost anything for the sake of certainty. And the author says you're hardwired to overestimate threats and underestimate your ability to handle them, all in the name of survival. So that, as you can imagine, that just increases the amount of stress around us because it's uncertain how things are going to unfold in a few weeks. What are things going to look like? So, this just adds to the stress of, like you just said, stock market, jobs, not seeing family. Where are we going to live? What do we, what's going to happen to us? Are we going to survive this? So, so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like the article mentioned, certainty, or like our minds tend to want to know what's going to come, what's, so there's a certain comfort that comes from, knowing, for example, what we're going to do on Monday or Tuesday, or it's Friday, we know that, we're going to stop working and now we're going to go into the weekend, and maybe we get to travel for a day or two, and or most people, for example, I know on Sundays they love to relax and do nothing. So
Hmm.
we are certain of that. We know that, next Sunday we're going to be relaxing. We may be doing laundry because that's the thing we do on Sundays. And, there's all these different things that we come up with, this habits that we form over time. And then whenever there's a threat to those habits or those ways of thinking or feeling, then we feel in danger. We feel like, uncertain about what's going to happen, what's to come. Also with relationships, I'm sure you've heard with your clients that sometimes, people just stay in a relationship because it makes them feel, like they have some certainty, or at least they have some comfort with, their spouse paying for the rent or half the rent, or, it's just not so much about the passion or the real love, but that certainty that comes from having someone next to you, that you can talk to every now and then, or having some companionship, I guess. But that's there's a good part of, certainty, of being certain about, getting a paycheck and things like that. But then there's also the part where you get used to things, and I guess I feel personally that it's good to have a little bit of both. It's a good thing to have, certainty in things, and there's also a good thing to have some uncertainty about, like a movie where you're watching a movie and you don't know what's going to happen towards the end. It makes it more interesting in some ways. And I feel like sometimes it's good to have change and have that uncertainty in certain things, but also it's good to have, habits that we form that are healthy, that keep our mind, healthy, and keeps us, sane. I guess that's the word.
Hmm.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely. Absolutely. The article that I'm referring to is called "The Psychology of Uncertainty" by Brian E. Robinson, PhD. It's The Right Mindset on Psychology Today, and I thought it was really interesting because a few things that he brings up in the article are I think, are really applicable right now, based on everything you're saying as well. Um, it says here that studies show that you're calmer anticipating pain than anticipating uncertainty, because pain is certain. And that's what was referring to about the relationships or anything in your life. When you anticipate pain, when you know something will be painful, you're actually calmer about it because there's something certain about the pain that's coming your way. But the uncertainty means you don't know. You have no way to prepare. You have no way to know what's about to happen. And scientists also have found, according to the author, that job uncertainty, which is what we're having right now, takes a greater toll on your health than actually losing a job. So not knowing what the future holds in terms of what your job is going to be or your occupation is going to be or how things are going to unfold takes a greater toll on you psychologically than does losing a job that you already had. Not that losing a job doesn't take a toll. It does, but it takes a greater toll to be uncertain about what to do now, what to do next. And statistics also show the third point that he makes, which is, I think, this is really, I hear this a lot in my own practice and in my own life. Statistics also show you're more likely to maintain the stamina to continue taking risks after a car crash than after a series of psychological setbacks. So after a physical altercation or event or situation happens to you that's extremely stressful, you're more likely to take risks even around the same situation than you are after psychological setbacks, after the uncertainty of things unfolding around you, or psychological setbacks such as having to be in social isolation, lockdown, or curfew. Or looking out the window and seeing the National Guard driving down the street, or whatever may be happening right now. So psychological setbacks can take more of a toll on us than isolated events that happen to us. So, not to underestimate what might be happening, people are saying, how come I'm becoming more anxious and more depressed? And I'm seeing this all the time. People are, having unprecedented reactions to things and amplified views of things. And sometimes the little things are sending people, over the edge with each other, with their children, with their occupations. Um, and they're not wondering where it's coming from. They get it, but these are the intricacies of what's happening right now. So, yeah. And then there's also the exciting part of uncertainty, like you say, like not knowing, like when you walk through a maze, one of those Halloween mazes, you just, you don't know what's around the corner. I've always found those to be particularly stressful because, that's a different kind of a fear. You're just not knowing. If I know where the scare is, like for example, on those rides where there's a big drop at the end, or a big scary drop at the end, it's coming. It's coming every single time, so there's a certainty about that, and you can anticipate that. But the uncertainty of not knowing where is the actor behind the corner that's going to jump out, and apparently they can't touch you by law, but they could still make you jump out of your skin even if they're not touching you. So so that's more scary for me because it's completely uncertain. I have no idea, unless I've been through the maze before. I have no idea where it's coming from. So that's a lot more. That causes a lot more stress.
Yeah, but it's exciting stress sometimes. It's like that feels good. Also, go ahedd.
Mm-mm. No, you go ahead. I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say that when you're watching a game, football game or basketball game, it's interesting to watch because you don't know who's gonna win, right? You're uncertain of the winner, but then before you watch a game, let's say you recorded it, and then you find out through whatever media that, who the winner was, suddenly that game loses its interest, because you already know, right? So knowing sometimes takes away from the game of life and the things that happen in life. And so I feel like there's some good things about uncertainty, and then there's some bad things about that as well. And that takes us to our what we're going to be talking about today. Is we're going to give you some tips on how to deal with this times of uncertainty in life. Some of the best practices, and the first one is to look for the silver lining. For what things are happening right now, especially during crisis where again, we don't know what's going to happen, but there's like we talked about in the past, is all these businesses that are going out of business. But then there's also this opportunities that are coming up, things that, we've never thought about that now are becoming important and that we can come up with, businesses that are starting to, come to life nowadays because of it. So that's one of the things that we can do. And we can also work on ourselves. I mean, this is, I have a couple of clients that are super, super into working on themselves right now, meditating, doing more, learning on their own, reading books. And they, one of my clients calls it a spiritual retreat. She feels like she's, on this amazing journey right now because of what's happening. And it's kind of a forced thing, yes, but at the same time, we get to spend more time with ourselves and listen to what we're thinking and do more of what we love because, really, if you're at home, you can do whatever you want. There's as long as you're not harming other people, of course. But, there's a lot of good things about that. And, as well as people working from home, that's becoming a big thing nowadays. And people are actually loving it, and it saves a lot of money for people. Also, I'm loving there's no traffic whenever I go anywhere right now. It's amazing, so things like that.
Yeah, I went to Malibu this past weekend because the hiking trails were open there. And I was amazed at how quickly I got to and from Malibu. I was like, Malibu's that close? I'm in North Hollywood in that area. And, it's not that far away. LA is not nearly as big as we think it is. It's not that large. I mean, it's large, but it's not that huge. But usually it would take at least an hour and a half, with all the side streets and whatnot, the traffic, like you were saying. And it was just like, boom, and I wasn't speeding. I don't recommend that. I was in the fast lane, but I was not going, too fast for safety. I want to reiterate that.
Sure.
But I mean,
sure.
yeah, right. But I mean, but if you go with the flow of traffic, it's faster than usual, but it's not, not to be unsafe. But still, I mean, I got home and I was like, wow, it's like right around the corner. And just like you said, looking for the silver lining, people become more engaged. They become, you can emerge from the incident stronger by recognizing, like I've said before, what your values really are, just how much extra fluff there was in your life that you did because it became habitual, both in terms of leisure and in terms of work and in terms of driving places and getting this done this way, XYZ, because it became your MO, your modus operandi, just with the way you do things. And now that everything got shut down, you could sort of recalculate and say, you know what, I didn't really have to do it that way. I could have done it in a much more simpler fashion. I didn't really enjoy hanging out with that crowd or with that or doing that social event regularly. I just sort of fell into the habitual nature of it, and you just reassess it. And like you said, it creates new opportunities now because people are working from home. It's like, wait a second, I could do this from home. I was always able to do this from home. How come I was traveling so much? I thought I had to, or it was just what everybody else was doing, or we sort of groupthink. We just fell into an old practice of doing something. And now the reset button has been pressed, and we're realizing there's just so many more opportunities to do it with them in a much more calmer state. Now, maybe some people don't enjoy working from home, and that's fine too. But the idea is that, like you said, businesses are changing. They're changing their structure. They're changing their format and dynamic. The population is changing. More people are learning about the internet because they had to. They're learning about things like that, and I'll tell you something else. When I was in Malibu, I noticed that, because I've been there before many times, and I noticed a lot of different people were there that normally would not have been there. It's just not the groups of people that I normally would see hiking in Malibu, and it was great to see, actually, because it was a different demographic, a different dynamic, and because people don't have the same options, so they came to where they can go, and it was just people are discovering how beautiful Malibu was, and I'll bet you a lot of these people will probably return. Even if everything opens up again. So it's just shifting so many things, and I think that's a silver lining. It just changes opportunity. And it's turning challenge into opportunity, like they say. So it's actually kind of exciting.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's so many things that are now happening. Except, like, for example, for me, I mentioned that I started my own YouTube channel, and I dreaded, being in front of the camera. Even though I've done acting before, it was different to be in front of the camera as myself, and trying to talk and do the things that I want to do. But, I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and it wasn't until now that I actually had the need to do it, because now, most of my clients are not coming in person. I started making the recordings for them so they can, practice some of the guided meditations from home and things like that. And so it is something that is changing us, and a lot of people are having to do the same. And I'm sure, I was just looking at this thing about artists who are now working on making movies online, and how that's going to change a lot of things, and a lot of technologies that are being created and that had been created before are now being utilized to be able to make movies with more, CGI and things like that, so that actors don't have to be there in person. So it's definitely, I mean, a lot of things are going to change, and I'm really excited actually for the things that are going to come out in the near future from all these things that are happening today. I feel like it's going to be very interesting. But anyway, what's the next thing that we can tell people that is good for this uncertain times?
Well, I mean, and this can come across as a bit of a cliche, so I want to make sure that we embellish this a little bit. Maintain a sense of calm, or remain calm. Okay, but and that's exactly right. But things like mindfulness, meditation, yoga. A lot of people talk to me about yoga. A lot of my clients talk to me about yoga, and I've asked them, is this something you would normally have done before? And they say, well, maybe a little bit once in a while, but they've become really habitual with this. But it says during a crisis, create a sense of calm. I kind of like that. Rather than remain calm, create calm. Find, because people aren't necessarily at their best under stress. So, you can represent calm by creating it, finding a way to create calm in your life. Whether it's working out, whether it's, for example, myself, I used to love to go to the gym, but the gyms are closed and I don't know for how long. So I actually purchased online, a home workout center, a workout bench, barbells, dumbbells, ankle weights, and I'm doing all the exercises I would normally do in the gym, and I'm looking them up on YouTube, just like you said, how to do them to maximize the parts of my body that I want to work. And it's just great because I just do it for like 20 minutes, 20-30 minutes before I go to bed, or at the end of the day, or whenever I want to do them. And it creates a calm in me. I created that calm because I was starting to get antsy that I couldn't go to my gym. I can go running and whatnot, but there wasn't a lot of time in the day for that. So I created other ways to get things done that keep me calm, that keep me focused, that keep me with having less stress. And calmness is something that has to be created sometimes. So whatever you can do to put your mind on reset, to bring yourself down to a baseline. I know that can be difficult, but creating a calm by doing certain tasks that might calm your mind, or shift your selective attention to something else, or finding ways like I did to bring things back into your life that you thought were gone for a while. You look online for how to cut your own hair, but be careful with that one. Yeah, I've seen some pictures of people said, "Look, I cut my hair." I'm like, "Wow, okay, yeah, all right, yeah."
No, I totally get that. But I practice meditation quite often, and I love relaxation exercises, and I practice them all the time. But even then, I tell you, sometimes with all this stuff happening in the world, and sometimes I get it really, like now that I've been doing a lot of sessions online and talking to people, sometimes we miss the taking the breaks, or doing things to relax us, or taking some time to drink some tea, or do things that relax us. I've noticed, for example, for me personally, like lately I've been learning a lot of things about YouTube, and I've been practicing different techniques on how to do public speaking, and constantly learning about editing with Final Cut Pro, or different programs with sound. And I just love learning, right? But just doing it too much can also have an effect, and it can create, and I've noticed on myself that sometimes I get really stressed out, even though I don't realize it. And that's the thing about stress. Sometimes it comes in and it starts to take over your life, and you don't realize it. And I've noticed, when I'm meditating, that, I could be focused on one thing, but I could totally feel my muscles getting really tensed. And so I have to be conscious of that, and then just relax the muscles, consciously. And that's one of the things that I use for calming myself, and to create that sense of calm you were talking about is, we got to be conscious of what's going on, how we're feeling. Also, take time to do things that we love, because sometimes we miss that, especially now, if you're working from home, you don't have the boundaries where you at least had to go to work, and, you had to drive 15-30 minutes to go to work, or an hour. Now that you're just at work, you've finished the last call and you're already there in your bedroom and you're ready to go to bed or something, or it's harder to have those boundaries, those limitations, if you don't have an office, or things that take you out of the what would you call it, your habitual things that you do for work, and so there has to be some kind of a boundary between your self-care and your being and the work that you do. And it's, I'm totally up about learning things all the time, but I've learned that sometimes it's okay to let your mind rest, to get, that break from all the madness, and then just go into your happy place, I guess you could say,
Yeah. And or create new happy places that you never knew existed.
There you go.
That's way to create calm also, because some of your happy places may not be available to you right now. But it's very important also to emphasize what they say, personal interactions, because you can become very isolated also, because we are isolated. And it's important to remember both people that were important in your life for human connection, and others that because I'm noticing that a lot of people are reaching out to me that were more of acquaintances before than actual close friends. And they're just checking in, saying things like, how you doing, how you feeling, how you holding up. They're just kinder and more engaging. And even though my typical interactions with them was a little bit more minor than before, a lot of people are checking in with one another. Keep everybody in your social circle in mind. Expand your social circle a little bit. Ask how people are doing. It generates a feeling of togetherness, and breaks the monotony and the isolation up a little bit. actually a lot, because people can feel very disconnected. I mean, we can feel disconnected on the internet anyway. There's a book out, a famous book called Alone Together, which was about the phenomenon of being online. And that was about 10, 15 years ago when it first became a phenomenon. And now we sort of come back to that a little bit. We've come like sort of full circle on itself. And we're feeling very alone. We're all together in this, but a lot of people are feeling very disconnected. So remember to reach out to people that are in your social group, maybe people you hadn't thought of in a long time, people you'd like to check in with, people who you were close to but not incredibly close to. Keep the whole social circle in mind, including your work circle, social circle, family circle. That's the good use for social media, I think, at a time like this, checking in with everybody. And I'm finding myself commenting on people's statuses that I normally wouldn't say anything if they posted something. I'm like, okay, I read it and like, all right, I'm like lukewarm about what they said. I don't like it or dislike it, but now I'm liking it and maybe saying something funny, just to engage more and remember that we're all here. And I think that's something small, but I think something very important. And by the way, that also creates a sense of calm. How do I create calm? Think outside your box, think outside of what you normally would have done before, and take a little bit of a risk, or stretch your paradigm just a little bit. And, and that will create that engagement. And maybe you'll take that with you when everything lifts. Maybe you'll say, you know what, that was pretty cool. I mean, I kind of liked reaching out like that, and I don't want to stop that just because I don't have to do it anymore. And that's another silver lining. You might take what you discover with you when everything opens up. And you might actually say to yourself, how come I never did that much before? How come I never did that way before? I always was able to. It just took a crisis for me to realize that that I wanted to,
Yeah.
And
they say, yeah. It's also easier to forget about people nowadays because we're so into our own world, doing the things that we love at home and, taking our own time. That is, we almost have to force ourselves to go out there and, reach out to people. And like you said, comment on people that, normally wouldn't comment on, or call people, nobody calls anybody anymore. That's a thing that I feel like it's important to keep in mind who's important in your life, who you want to, stay in touch with, and then people that from your past, there's so many people that we've met over the years. And right now, for some reason, because we've been so isolated, it's easier to forget those people. And it's a lot easier to feel disconnected and lonely nowadays because, in the internet, I don't know if it's because we see people's pictures on Facebook or Instagram or, any social media, and then we just feel like we've already seen them, so there's no point in talking to them, right? We're already hearing about their lives, so why even comment or talk to that person, because we already know what's happening with them, or we know they're still alive, or things like that. But it's not the same as when you talk to someone. For example, with my YouTube channel, when I first started the first one, I started sharing with people directly, and I was talking to them, hey, I just did this, I hope you can watch it. And it was amazing the response that I got from a lot of them, and the support that I got, simply because I reached out to a lot of these people that I haven't talked to in a while. And, obviously I felt bad that sometimes, I only reached because I needed you to watch my video. But at the same time, I love having that excuse to talk to someone that I haven't talked to for a long time. And I feel like it's better to do that than nothing at all. So I feel like, it's important to also ask questions like, how are you feeling? What's in your mind? How can I help you today? I just talked to one of my friends last night who's a police officer. And I'm like, dude, I'm really sorry for all the stuff that's happening right now, but, I'm here for you. We've known for a long time, for many years now. And I just said, if you need me, just tell me what you need and I'm here for you. So even if you just need somebody to talk to. And he was like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much I appreciate your comment right now, because of what's happening today. So I feel like those kinds of things are important to keep in mind, to ask emotion-based questions with our friends and people that we love, because, it has to come from someone. And if we don't start it, they may never do it. And so if we are the ones doing it and reaching out, I'm sure you're going to have a good, response. If you get no response at all, then at least you tried. So, but that's my take on that.
Yeah, and that brings up something I think important, expressing appreciation for people, expressing fondness, appreciation, for what people represent in your life, what they have represented in your life. Like you said, even small comments like that can make a very big difference to somebody right now. Just having a brief conversation with somebody, either online or on the phone or Zoom or whatever you're doing, can make a very big difference to somebody right now. I'm finding in my work, when I talk to clients and friends that are going through a lot, it doesn't take much to turn people around. You think the problems are much more layered right now, but the truth is just a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of warmth, a little bit of kindness, a little bit of just listening, and just like that one sentence that you said to your police officer friend, it's all it takes sometimes to have people turn around and reset. So appreciation for others, for what they do, for what they have done, for who they are, really makes us feel good to appreciate people and list our list of gratefulness, what we're grateful for, who we're grateful for, and for what reason. I get a lot of nice compliments from clients that just say thank you for what you do, and they don't say that very often. I mean, it's not because they don't appreciate it. It's not a sentence I typically hear in private practice. They just say they do say thank you, but they make it a broader statement these days. Thank you for what you're doing. Talking to people who are in distress or feeling anxious or depressed in times like this. It's such an important thing to have around. And I appreciate hearing that. And I see how much people appreciate just having someone to talk to. I do a lot of my work online, on an online platform, just having a chat with somebody who's a professional or someone who's just a stand for you, responding to your messages. Is a big deal right now. So that's another thing, is that things that were very not a very big deal before are a very big deal now. So it doesn't take very much. It really doesn't take very much to reach out to somebody. Yeah, and put them on
totally.
reset.
And I tell you, speaking about that, when I was in school, part of our schooling, we have to go to counseling, and I remember going to see this counselor every week for a few months, and I just thought it was amazing. I'd never been to therapy before in my life, and I just thought it was amazing that somebody took the time to listen to my problems, to listen to me for an hour a week, and to just be there for me if I needed something. And I was always very grateful to this person in so many ways, because I feel like, they don't have to do it. I mean, they're doing it because they love people. I mean, at least I imagine that, because that's what I do. I love talking to people, but I felt like they were there because they really cared, and they showed that. And I felt like there was rapport with this person. I felt like it was someone that was actually listening to me, and it was my own personal problem. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I always thank this person so much, because, during my time, it was, there was a lot of breakthroughs for me, and I learned a lot. And that was kind of the point of going to therapy at the time. And I've had a lot of those moments with other people that are not my therapist necessarily, but it's sometimes, that person just being there alone, listening to you, whether it's a friend or a therapist or, a coach or whatever, that is important, because sometimes that makes a huge difference in our lives. And I can tell you, the people that I talk to, not only do they take something from me, but I always learn from them. I always get something from them back. And I feel like that also adds to my life, and it makes me feel, like my life has some purpose, and they also feel good because their life is improving in some way or another. And so that's kind of what, why it's important to have that. So, and also going back to the tips that we were talking about, it's important to have certain rituals that I do, for example, with my clients. When we talk, once every week, we certainly, start with, how was your week? And then they talk about their week, and then we talk about all these different things, and then we end it with a meditation. That's the way I do my sessions. But, I'm sure we all have rituals and things that we do with in our daily basis with work. And the idea right now with the whole virtual thing or doing things online is to continue to do the things that we were doing before, and just to keep consistency in our lives, in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep consistency in some way, and expand upon that consistency, now that you can, and even, like I said, even in the smallest ways, and just checking in with each other, and amplifying the small things. If you normally would say to somebody, I hope you're doing well, I hope you're staying safe. That's sort of almost like my MO at the end of sentences these days. When I'm saying goodbye to somebody, I say stay safe, stay well, at the end of all of my messages. And I'm even getting that from clients. They want to check in with me. So, well, how are you doing? You're there for everybody else. Like, how are things with you? And
Right.
they usually say, how are you? But now they're everybody's checking in with everybody else. And I think that kind of camaraderie and that kind of kindness, I'm hoping truly that we don't lose that silver lining when everything it reaches the new normal or whatever it's going to be. I hope that we take that with us and that we continue to check in with people. And they've said, I've heard it said that, hopefully people will be a little bit more kinder to one another when this is all over, and more of a sense of togetherness. We've been very individualistic for a long time. I'm not like knocking culture. I'm simply saying it's just, I think a lot of people were on overdrive prior to this. And maybe when a lot of uncertainty comes up, people are wondering, well, what's it going to be without that overdrive? What's it going to be without that old MO that I had? What's it going to be without me, pursuing the same goals, dreams, and plans that I was pursuing before, in the way that I was pursuing them? What's life going to look like? Maybe it'll look like the silver lining that we're talking about. Maybe people will be kinder, more of a camaraderie, more of a togetherness, more of, more appreciative. And maybe this will be a positive silver lining that we take with us. If we take the silver lining and make a silver coat, and wear it every day, so now it'll be a gold lining if something else happens. Keep transforming ourselves in that way. So, and like I said, I think the smallest things can make a very big difference in somebody's life. It doesn't take a lot. It really doesn't take a lot to show kindness, appreciation, caring. And if you need help, if you are struggling, then by all means reach out to a friend, reach out to a counselor, reach out to a coach, reach out to somebody. Do that, because you'd be amazed at how responsive people are these days, and everybody's looking for that kind of connection. So don't let yourself stay isolated. Take care of yourself and reach out. Tell somebody that you need help, and you even post it if you need to. And
totally agree.
Someone will be there.
Yeah, and also, take time for yourself. Take breaks from everything, from your work, from the news, from anything you're doing, and just go and do something else. Have meals with your family, even if you go to the park, exercise, go for a walk, do things that really take your mind off of things for a little bit, even for a few minutes or an hour. Or if you could take a couple of days off, then go for it. By all means, just take the time for yourself. Also, communication is really important at the moment. It's important to communicate with our family members, with, our work, coworkers, anyone that's important, and let them know how things are going with us, or ask them how they're doing, because, you never know how things are with other people until you ask. And the more communication you have, the more you can come up with plans or things to work with in the future. Like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of businesses that are being created right now. This is a good time to find good people that may not have a job at the moment, who might be willing to work with you and start a business, or people that might be interested in traveling in the future. I mean, I know a lot of friends are buying tickets to travel next year. They're hoping that by next year things calm down. And I tell you, right now, tickets are very cheap right now if you want to buy flights anywhere in the world. Just keep in mind that things are not always going to be like this. This is something that, it's changing a lot of things, but things will get better in sooner or later, and we just have to get through it and plan for the best, that will come in the future. That's my take on that.
Yeah, and we've done it before. We've been through a lot before. I mean, I could list all the tragedies and crises that we've been through before, but we have been through a lot before. A lot of this is not something we've seen before, but if you take elements from it, we've seen a lot, and we've done a lot. We've been through a lot. We've survived a lot, and we will survive this. We'll come out. Things might be different, but change is not necessarily something negative. It's just something inevitable. So, if it came out of a crisis, it came out of a crisis. But you're absolutely right. I mean, even the airlines now, I think, are open, like 50% of them are full. They used to be like 90% empty. Now they're 50% full, I think. That's what somebody told me. So the airlines are starting to open up. Flights are starting to be booked again. There's a certain level of normalcy returning. Exactly. Hang in there, because things will open up and reshape. And even though there's uncertainty about what that will look like, keep in mind everything we said about what uncertainty is. and how it hot wires your brain. And create your calm, and I agree with you so much. Take yourself away from the news after a certain point. Don't over argue on social media. Don't, what I'm saying? Just learn what you need to know, learn the facts, and then process them and go about your life. If you get too caught up in this whole thing, I almost want to say that's what they want you to do, but I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. Take a step back from it after a while, and don't over engage in it, because that's you trying to be certain, right? That's you trying to gain certainty from something by having a certain viewpoint and sticking to that viewpoint and arguing that viewpoint and looking for evidence for that viewpoint on the news and on the media, because you're trying to be certain about something, certain about the way you see something, certain about the way something is, or the outcome, or the meaning, or the philosophy, or the right, the left, the centrist, the this, the that. That's you trying to be certain. So just be aware of that, and and take a step back and take care of yourself, and enjoy your life, and create the enjoyment. If it's not the way it was before, create the enjoyment wherever you can.
Yep, and totally agree.
Yeah.
So
and
thank you.
We will come out of this. Yeah.
I agree. I think we will. So thank you so much for your time, Neil. Any last words before we end this?
No, just take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I know that's an old, overused statement, but I think right now it's really important. And remember, it's the small things. It doesn't have to be huge. Even if you say I have no energy to do anything for anybody else, believe me, just your kind words and telling somebody that you're there if they need you can be enough. And reach out if you need help. Don't sit on that.
I agree. And I feel, the last thing I'll say is, I said at the beginning, things may get worse at some point. We don't know that because things are certainly very uncertain at the moment. But even if things get worse, I feel like if we are strong and we've been working on ourselves, meditating, exercising, eating healthier and taking care of ourselves, whatever comes our way, we can tackle it better and be, with the right mind and really do the right action at the time whenever it comes. So, it's really important to take care of yourself in any aspect that you can think of. I feel like that's where love comes from, when you show love to yourself. So work on yourself. If you need help, reach out, like Neil said. And if you need anything at all, also let us know. We're here for you. So please keep sending us your questions, your comments, and if you have any questions as well, you can send us directly to us. We're on social media as well. So you just look up our names and you'll find us. Or you can also look up our page on Facebook. Or if you like, we also have this podcast on YouTube. So if you want to watch it on YouTube, just look it up on YouTube and you'll see. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our, wherever you listen to the podcast. That's also important because it helps us. And if you leave us a comment or, a rating of 5 stars, that's also great. So please, 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 we really appreciate that. And I think that's it. We'll see you next Tuesday. And thank you to all the people that are listening every week. We really appreciate you. You know who you are. And, to all my friends and Neil's friends, thank you for listening. And the people around the world who are also listening, I have some monks that listen to us every week. So thank you so much. They're in India, which is also suffering right now a lot, but hopefully they're staying safe. And thank you so much. And thank you, Neil. And see you next week at 6 p.m.
All right. See you next week.
This podcast is brought to you by MindFit. Please help us to share this podcast with your friends and family to grow this community. And if you'd like to donate to this podcast, or if you'd like to share your comments, questions, or concerns, send them to mindfitpodcast@gmail.com, or you can call us directly at 714-328-4661.